Okay. So we're going to use a set of massage balls for the beginning of practice. If you don't have them, you can just roll over a rolled up towel or a blanket, but just have those handy. And then let's start in constructive rest. So lying on your back, knees bent, feet on the floor. And it can be nice to start out with a little bit of a rolled blanket under the back of the neck for support. Give everybody a minute to settle in here. So constructive rest, just knees bent, feet on the mat. Maybe a rolled blanket behind the neck. And start to feel yourself transitioning from whatever came before this to right now. Perhaps just feeling the weight of your body landing down. And imagine you can sense that you're not just being held by your mat, by your props, the floor below you, but that you can sense into the support of the earth. And where you're resting, really directly over the center of the earth. So we're just in constructive rest, knees bent, feet on the floor. Breathing in and out through the nose, if that works for you. Maybe eyes closed or steady gaze or a drishti, your gaze point at one spot that's not moving. As we begin to call our attention away from all of the distractions around us. Any memories of the past or worries of what's coming. See if we can let the attention land inside the body in this moment. And then we'll begin to work with a deeper breath. We'll kind of get on the same count here. So following your next breath down to the bottom of your exhale. And then inhale for 2, 3, 4, and pause. Unless you're pregnant or you think you might be pregnant. Exhale for 2, 3, 4, pause. Inhale for 2, 3, 4, pause. Exhale for 2, 3, 4, pause. Keep this rhythm. You can count in your head. For some of you, it might be worthwhile counting to 5 and kind of pushing the boundaries of the length of your breath. For some of you, you may need to drop the count down. So we're working on a length of breath that feels like a challenge, but not pushing us into agitation or panic. Just like, oh, this is interesting. This is more than I usually do. So we're gonna work your diaphragm, your main breathing muscle. But not pushing it so hard that you're upsetting your nervous system. And could you imagine your breath originating at the center of the abdomen and spreading out in all directions, including the sides of the ribs, including into your back, into the floor. And you can finish whatever round of breath you're on. So when you finish the exhale, I will end the round. And then just continue this deeper breathing, but you don't have to do the pausing. And if it makes sense for your practice tonight to use Ujjayi breath, where you're closing off the back of the throat a little bit, if you weren't doing that already, maybe come into that now. It can help with that kind of calling in of the attention. And then if you have them, grab your massage balls. If you don't have them, just roll up a little towel and you can put that in your upper back instead. But if you do have them, we're going to put the two balls right in the upper back, really right at the shoulder, where the shoulders and the neck meet. So low enough that they don't just pop out, but pretty high up. And then hold your head so you can just cradle your skull. And continue the work of breathing on purpose. Maybe give the hips a little lift, putting some added pressure into that upper back. Maybe gently rock from side to side. You can bring the hips back down. Maybe shift your shoulders left and right. So you could imagine the balls creating little horizontal divots in your upper back. And then with your left hand, just guide your left occipital ridge, that little bony outcropping at the bottom back of your skull. Guide that further back away from the ball on that side. And then guide your head back to center, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So you're using that right hand just to guide the right base of skull away from the ball. And then back to center. Maybe keep your hips on the ground, especially if this pressure feels like it's a lot. But you might also lift your hips up. And we'll just roll back about an inch or two. Release the hips down and find the breath again. And this time, in this new spot, you can let the head rest. You can continue to cradle it with your hands. But we're going to inhale and tip the pelvis forward. So your pubic bone is going to roll away from you, feeling your lower back arch off the ground. And then exhale, tip your pelvis back so the pubic bone moves more towards the navel and your lower back seeks to firm onto the ground. And we'll move through that a couple more times. So inhale, pelvis tips forward, anterior tilt. Feeling that back bend in your lower back, and then exhale, tip the pelvis back, coming into a bit of flexion here. One more, inhale. And exhale. Hold the head, Slide that left base of skull further back away from the ball. Back through center, do the same thing on the right side. And then you can rock a little bit from side to side, maybe hug your chest. And then shift left and right. So rather than alternating the pressure left to right, we're keeping the pressure the same on both balls and just moving side to side. And then again, we'll roll the balls 1-2 inches further down the back. Inhaling to tip the pelvis forward. And exhaling to tip the pelvis back. We'll do 2 more like that. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Hold the head. One more time, shifting either side of the base of your skull a little further back. Just creating some length. Maybe rock from side to side. Maybe shift left and right. Hugging your chest. Like you really love yourself. Hopefully you do. And then we're going to roll further down so that the balls come off the ribcage spine and into the lower back, into the lumbar spine. And you can kind of prop yourself up on your elbows. And we're just going to rock forward and back with the hips. So we're just kind of gliding, letting the balls glide up and down the lumbar spine as if you could knead more length into all that tissue. If you're lying over a blanket because you don't have the balls, that is really great work. So just hang there. And then go ahead and shift your hips from side to side a little bit. So you're alternating the pressure. And the next time your hips shift to the left, stay there so you have more pressure on that right side. And then glide up and down again. So you're letting that right ball sink a little deeper and start to knead out some length between your back bottom rib cage and your back right hip. And then we'll do the same thing, shift the hips a little to the right. So there's more pressure on that left ball. And you're just gonna glide forward and backward, letting that left ball creep on in there. So you're getting a little bit of massage into perhaps some of the psoas muscles that attach from the top of your inner thighs along the side of the spine, definitely into your QL that fills in the space between your rib cage and your hip. And then of course your long spinal muscles, your erectors. We're going to come off that. You might want to replace the rolled up blanket behind the back of the neck. Returning to your constructive rest and just kind of check things out. How does it feel to breathe? Go ahead and hold your right knee. Bring it in. We're going to slide that left leg straight. Let your left leg try to slide away from you a bit further. And feel for sinking the top of your left thigh bone down into the back of your upper thigh towards the floor. This can be a pretty big stretch for your right glutes, your hamstrings, your hip muscles. So you could stay here. Another option is to come into half happy baby. So reaching up for, I like to grab the pinky side of the foot. Bring the knee down next to the right ribs. And then just see if you're still breathing on purpose. And if not, can you come back to that steady rhythm that can be so soothing for the nervous system? So that when we start to come into some of these poses that aren't as comfortable for us, that are a little outside of some of the ranges of movement that we might do normally day to day, the breath is like this continuous conversation with the nervous system that, like, yeah, this is a challenge, but I'm safe. Unless you're not safe, and then you got to back right out. You can stay in half happy baby, or you can interlace the hands behind that right thigh and start to straighten your right leg any amount. You can press the thigh into the hands. The hands will resist, and that will kind of turn on the muscles along the backside of that right leg, which can be helpful when we're coming into a stretch for the muscles to be active participants. Maybe you hold a little further up the leg towards the foot. Some of you might be able to go ahead and grab onto the big toe, or hold the outer edge of the foot, or maybe grab onto your foot with both hands. Just options, no choice is right or better. It just depends on what's working for your body today. Can both legs try to grow a little longer? And then you're going to release your foot, but keep it up there. Just don't hold it. Inhale, take your arms up towards the ceiling so you feel your shoulder blades broaden on your upper back. And then exhale, curl up, shoulders, chest, and head. Try to bring your nose towards your right thigh without using your hands. And that might be enough to work here. Just trying to hold yourself up. See if you could maybe curl one more rib up off the ground, one more vertebrae. And then maybe take your left leg and bring it up just to hover, just off the ground. Both legs still trying to grow a little longer. What's your breath doing? Bring your left knee in towards your chest without touching it. See if you can curl up a little bit more. And then release back to constructive rest. Feet on the floor, arms by your sides. Feel your breath. And then hug your left knee in. Take your right leg down your mat. And feel your right leg try to slide a little further away from you. That right thigh bone, especially near the top, nice and heavy towards the floor. It's trying to sink away from the upper thigh. And you can stay here holding the knee. Maybe half happy baby if you did that on the other side. You can stay there in your half happy baby. You can interlace the hands at the back of your left thigh and work towards Supta Padangusthasana, extending the leg up towards the ceiling. Maybe you hold a little further up on the leg. Maybe you can grab the foot. So your body kind of goes, with the exception of bone-on-bone restrictions where your joints cannot move any further, your body tends to go into the ranges of motion that you do most often. So if you haven't done Supta Padangusthasana in a while and your foot feels really far away, it should be no surprise, right? But if you practice this pose consistently for a month every day, it would probably feel pretty different. You still might never grab your foot, but it might feel more comfortable to straighten out the leg. Especially if you practice it when you're paying attention. Feeling that breath move in and out. I remember reading an interview in Yoga Journals, probably like, I don't even know, 7-10 years ago. And this really, famous yogi teacher was talking about how he liked to do his yoga while he was watching TV. And I'm like, I think you're missing something. It could be nice to stretch while you're watching TV, but I don't know if that's the yoga. Take your arms up towards the ceiling without holding your foot anymore, but keep your leg extended. And then you're going to curl up, reaching your arms forward. See if you can bring your nose towards your left thigh. Obviously, you're going to feel your belly working. So that might be uncomfortable. So can you breathe in a way that reminds your whole system that, like, yes, you're working hard, but I'm okay. Maybe take your right leg up to hover. Can you curl like half more of one spinal joint up off the ground? And then bring your right thigh in towards your chest without touching it with your hands. Maybe you can curl up a little bit more. And then release. Both feet come down, constructive rest. Bring your knees into your chest. And we're going to roll over onto the right side, knees stacked. You can hold onto that left leg with your right hand. We're just going to take that left arm into a twist. So take your left arm up towards the ceiling. Feel that left shoulder blade slide up off the upper back towards your hands. And then any amount, take it out to the left. When you come up to some resistance where you have to really use some muscle to push through and go deeper into the twist, just pause. Instead of forcing past this kind of natural stopping point, go ahead and move your breath again. It's from the center of your abdomen out in all directions. So you can really get your bottom rib cage to get nice and broad. And maybe the breath helps to loosen things up and you naturally kind of unwind into a deeper twist. So it should feel like an unwinding if we're moving with the breath rather than like a twisting up. Follow your next breath to the bottom of your exhale. And then inhale, come back through to center. Hug the knees. Roll to your left. And we'll take the right arm up like it's trying to drag you up. And then take it out. Opening up into your twist. Pausing where your body says, like, okay, this is something. And breathe. And there's the physical mechanics of breathing and how they move your muscles and your rib cage and create space along the joints of your spine. And then there's the way that the breath works with the nervous system. To tell your body, like, it's okay, we can go here, maybe. Those two things together might start to just unwind any of the tension that's preventing you from getting into the twist. Notice how you're breathing. The moment that you're noticing how you're breathing, or the moment that you're noticing the sensations in your body or how it feels where you meet the ground, you're here. You're not somewhere in the past, you're not somewhere in the future, you're not creating distress for yourself. You're here. Follow your breath to the bottom of your next exhale, and then inhale to come out of the twist. There are many days where this is where I would end practice. I'm doing my home practice, and I'll just roll into Shavasana and cover up. So if you're going to take this when I post it online, and this is a nice natural stopping point, and you've done a lot. But we're going to keep moving on. So go ahead and hug your knees into your chest. You're going to rock up to a seat. Sitting on your sit bones, feet on the mat. Lift your chest. Go ahead and hold the back of your thighs and just rock back so that you kind of rock off your sit bones, and it's almost like you're sitting right on your own tailbone. What if you could be just balanced on your coccyx? And I want you to imagine that your tailbone could try to curl underneath you a little bit towards your heels. So it pulls your lower spine into a little bit of flexion. And how does that feel in your belly? And then feet up off the ground. Maybe release your arms. Maybe straighten your legs. And you're doing that same action where you imagine your tailbone curling underneath you a little bit towards your heels, which should keep the work in your belly and not so much at the front of your hips. And then just make sure you're not holding your breath. All right, take one more breath in, and then we'll take a break. You can cross the ankles. Inhale, cat pose in your chest. Excuse me, cow pose in your chest. Exhale, cat pose in your chest. I'm still recovering from this really long cold. Excuse me. Feet back on the ground. Let's do this again, but before we come up, go ahead and set your gaze point. Set your drishti at one spot that's not going to move. And I want you to imagine that you love that spot so you can feel it in your eyes. And then we'll rock back onto the tailbone, starting to feel that it can curl underneath you. Feet off the ground. Release your legs. This chest is still lifted, even as the tailbone curls underneath you towards your heels. Maybe you straighten your legs. And are you still gazing lovingly at that one little spot? It helps, I think. Take one more breath in, and then release. Again, cross the legs. Inhale into your cow pose, chest. Exhale into your cat. Because I like odd numbers, we'll just do it one more time. So Navasana, boat pose. Rocking back onto your tail. Feel your breath. Tail curling up towards the heels. Inner thighs drawing in towards each other. Soft gaze at one point. Your knees could still be bent. Your feet could still be tapped onto the floor. So you got options. And then we'll release. And this time, instead of the cat-cow, just do some circles with your torso. All right, come on up to hands and knees. Grab your blanket. We're not done with the floor yet. We are going to stand up eventually, but we're not there yet. You're going to grab your blanket. We're going to make a little belly roll. So you have something about this size. Go ahead and fold it up so that you have something long and about as wide as the space between your hip points. And then you might just fold it over once, or you might roll it up a little more. You don't have to commit. So like once we come down, if it feels like too much, unroll it a little. But we're gonna put this right in the lower belly, above the pubic bone and below the navel. And depending on what you had for lunch, it's gonna be very uncomfortable at first. You can feel the gas bubbles moving around and some digestion stuff going on. Usually the longer we stay here, the less the less you feel that. So you can stay up on your forearms if you'd like. Stack hands, let the forehead rest down. Remember those 4 count breaths, or 5 or 6 or 3, whatever you ended up easing into once you got to set the pace on your own. Come back to those. Count it out for the first few. And on your inhales, let your belly move into the blanket. And on your exhales, soften so that you invite the blanket to sink in. And if you're feeling something pushing back at you, like a really strong pulse, shift a little forward or back so that's not so intense. And everything in here is pretty liquid, and things will slide around and move out of the way as they need to. And sometimes when you feel that happen, it's like, what? It can be an uncomfortable feeling, but it's okay. So this is just a nice massage for your guts, your abdomen, all the muscles in here. Could be really nice for your digestive system, especially if you have any old scar tissue, creating adhesions in between the organs, the intestines. This can help sometimes break that stuff up. But it also shines a light on how much tension you hold in the belly. And we all hold some tension there. Right? This is an area of a lot of emotion, both good and bad. We hold our excitement here, our anxiety, our fear. So let the blanket and your breath suggest to this area that it doesn't have to hold on so tight. Because we want to have options. We want the strength to hold us up in Navasana and boat pose. And then we want to be able to also relax. Bend both knees. Tick-tock your legs from side to side. Go slow so that you're exploring how the sensation changes with the movement of the legs. And then release the legs down. And for the last few breaths, we'll try to get on the same pace here. So inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. On empty, when you're at the very bottom of your exhale, pause for a moment and pull your lower belly away from the blanket. Like you're trying to suck it up into your sacrum or your lower back. And then release that, inhale. Exhale. Same thing, bottom of the exhale. Can you draw your lower belly away from the blanket? And again, inhale. Exhale. Draw the lower belly away from the blanket. And then inhale. And let's release. We'll come off the blanket. Stay on your belly. Stay in this prone position for a moment. Breathe your belly into the floor. And then come up onto your forearms for Sphinx pose, pressing down through the elbows. Elbows are under your shoulders or maybe slightly forward of your shoulders. Fingers spread wide, and you're going to root down through the base of the pose. So hands, knuckles, wrists, elbows, and also your legs are going to reach down and back. Can you imagine leaving your legs behind and peeling your rib cage forward and up? Almost like when you peel the shell off of a shrimp. I'm feeling back to my old self. I haven't had a food comparison in a really long time. I haven't had a food analogy in a while. We're gonna go with the shrimp here. Take another breath in. And then exhale, release. Press back up into your tabletop. And let's come into downward facing dog. So the hips will reach up and back. You're gonna gaze somewhere in between your thumbs. Or you can gaze down at your mat. Just have your ears in line with your arms for today. The base of the pose, your hands, your feet, push the floor away so that your hips float up and back. And then especially at the bottom of your exhales, can you really relax your belly? And the pressure of pushing into the floor with your hands and your feet, and then the softening of the belly might invite a little bit of a lift of your lower belly up into your sacrum. Almost like you have a little pocket of helium right there. And maybe that helps to float your hips a little higher. Let's take one more breath in. We're gonna exhale and step the right foot up in between the hands. Help it up there if it didn't quite make it. And you can always use blocks under the hands or be on tented fingers. And release the back knee down and release the back toes. And then find the base of the pose. So your feet, top of the back foot, bottom of the front foot, your left knee pressing down. Your hands push the floor away to help lift the chest. You can stay with hands on blocks. You can hold the front knee. You can take the arms up. And take the top of your left thigh bone, like we did when we were setting up for Supta Padangusthasana, and sink it back away from the top front of your thigh towards the back of your thigh, rather than letting it just hang into the front of that hip joint. Take one more breath in, and then exhale, bring the hands down. We're gonna tuck the back toes under, and we're gonna lift the hips up and back like they're moving into downward facing dog, working towards straightening that right leg any amount. You might not get very straight. Feel the hips float up and back. Imagine that little pocket of helium again in your lower belly. The outer hips slide back. The heart slides forward. And then rebend the right knee. Set your gaze point somewhere out in front of you. Feel both feet push into the floor and lift up into your high lunge. Shoulder blades slide up to chase the hands. And feel as if your upper side ribs are helping to push your arms towards the ceiling. So you always, occasionally now, less now than 10 years ago, you will hear that cue to take your arms up but move your shoulders away from your ears, which is incorrect. I think what they're going for there is just to try to do less with your upper shoulders. So rather than feeling like you're trying to pinch your arms higher from the tops of your shoulders, float your arms higher from your upper side ribs. But your shoulders will move up. They're just not doing all the work. Let's take one more breath in. Bring the hands down. We're going to take your left leg towards the ceiling for a quick standing split. Reach nice and tall. And then step the feet together. Inhale, lengthen your heart forward. Pubic bone and tailbone will reach back. And then exhale, fold down. Stand up, inhale. And then exhale like you're swimming, take your arms down by your sides. Your feet will push the floor away. So you end up landing a little taller. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, lengthen your heart forward. Exhale, your left leg steps back. Release the back knee. Inhale, take the arms up. Exhale, bring the hands down, step back to plank, and lower onto your belly. Back bend as you inhale. It could be Sphinx, it could be Cobra, Baby Cobra. Downward facing dog, exhale. Breathe in. Breathe out. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Good. One more breath in here. Exhale, step that left foot forward. Release the back knee. And find the base of the pose. Hands on the floor, blocks. Maybe on your front knee. And there's no rush. Feel your breath. Thank God we can breathe without paying attention, right? So we can sleep, but there's something different about when we breathe on purpose. Maybe take the arms up. Supporting the arms from below, from the roots in your upper side ribs. Steady gaze. And then bring the hands back down, maybe onto your blocks. And just rather than thinking about straightening your left leg, I want you to think about your hips pulling you up and back like downward facing dog hips. Both legs actively trying to get longer. They might not ever get straight. And then you breathe. And you let the attention on your breath take the front, the front focus. And so the discomfort, if there's a little bit of discomfort, I'm not talking about avoiding pain, but if there's a little discomfort, that moves into the background a little bit because you're still focused on your breathing. And then we'll rebend the left knee. Steady gaze. Come on up. High lunge. Both feet are actively pushing the floor away. So even as this front knee bends, your foot, your left foot, is pushing into the floor in a way that keeps your hips feeling a little bit buoyant, more supported. The arms reach up. And go ahead and play around with the position of your hips in this shape. So you don't want to be so far into that forward tilt that you're hanging out in the front of your left hip. You don't want to have your tailbone tucked underneath you like in boat pose, but you just want to find your happy medium, your little Goldilocks pelvis. What makes it feel good? And then bring the hands down. We'll take that right leg up, pushing the left foot into the floor. And then step the feet together. Roll your way up to standing. Inhale, take the arms up. And then we'll roll our way back down. Chin comes into the chest, curling the upper spine, middle, lower spine. And the hands come down. Right foot steps back. Release the knee. Inhale, the arms come up. And then exhale, step back to plank and lower. You can do this on your blocks. Back bend as you inhale. Downward facing dog, exhale. Breathe in. Breathe out. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. We're going to take a couple more breaths here in downward facing dog. We're going to move into some lunging vinyasas. If you're always standing up from a hip hinge with like a more flat back, and play around with the rolling up and the rolling down. If you're always rolling up and rolling down, play around with the opposite. So we're just trying to make sure we maintain options. Take a breath in. Exhale, step your right foot up in between your hands. Release your back knee down and keep the toes tucked under. Inhale, take the arms up. And then exhale, step into a forward fold at the front of the mat. Inhale, stand up. You can roll, or you can come up with the hip hinge. Exhale, bring the arms down by your sides. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold down. Lengthen your spine as you inhale. Right leg steps back. Release the knee. Inhale, take the arms up. And then exhale, plank to lower all the way onto your belly. Arms down by your side. This time, locust pose. Lift everything up. Exhale, bring the hands under the shoulders and tip it back. Coming into your cobra, inhale. Downward facing dog, exhale. Breathe in. Breathe out, left foot forward, low lunge. Inhale, the arms come up. Exhale, step forward. Stand up, inhale. Arms by your sides, exhale. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold. Long spine, inhale. Left leg steps back, exhale. Low lunge, inhale. Plank to lower onto the belly, exhale. Arms by your sides or interlaced at your lower back, inhale, lift up. I'm going to pause here. Spread the collarbones wide. Lift up from the front of the armpits. Good, take another breath in. Exhale, release the hands onto the mat below your shoulders, and we'll tip it back. Coming into your cobra pose, inhale. And then exhale, child's pose. Breathe in. Breathe out. Inhale, tabletop. Exhale, downward facing dog. How does it feel to breathe here? How long can you get from your hands to your hips? From your hips to your heels? How does it feel if you relax your belly? Let's take another breath in. And then we'll step the right foot forward and release the left knee down. Coming on up to hold your right thigh. Let's inhale the left arm up. And we're going to exhale, find a twist. Take the left elbow. Either the forearm will prop onto the right thigh, or you'll take the elbow outside and then just pause for a moment. Good. So when we come into this lunging twist, it's a flexion twist. So you want to feel a little hint of what we were doing with our tailbone in boat pose at the beginning of practice. So it's like it's curling underneath you just a little bit, bringing your lower spine into a little bit of flexion. And then imagine you could take your right back waist and wrap it around, your left back waist, and wrap it around towards your inner right knee, and your right waist kind of just peels open. And then from there you can decide, maybe you bring your palms together, maybe you make a little fist with the bottom hand and push off of it. Maybe more of your left arm can come outside your right knee, and you can bring the hand down and open the arms up. So there's options. Some of you might play with tucking your back toes under and lifting the back knee, find your balance. Maybe that back heel comes down for your twisted warrior. How does it feel to breathe? There's less space for big breath when we're in twist, right? You breathe into your back, back of heart, backs of waist. And then unwind your twist. Let's come back to downward facing dog. Couple of breaths, feeling the length in your spine. Step your left foot forward. Release the right knee. That little bit of flexion, the tailbone curling down. And we'll take that right arm up and across. Maybe forearm rests on the thigh. Maybe elbow outside the thigh. Maybe upper arm outside the thigh. You decide where you want to go with this one. Palms can stay in a prayer. Back knee can stay down. Back heel can stay up or down. So there's options. And just because you can do it, doesn't mean you have to do it. So what would be most helpful for you right now? Sometimes what we need is just to give ourselves permission to do less. And so this is a really great place to practice that. All right, feel yourself breathing. And then when things feel done, go ahead and unwind. Come into downward facing dog. Breath in, lift the hips up and back. Exhale, bend your knees, lower your hips, look in between your thumbs. Walk or maybe hop your feet up to your hands. Lengthen your heart forward. Fold yourself down and then inhale and come up. Rolling or the hip hinge. Hands to your heart. Exhale. Gaze out one spot. We're going to walk that left foot back, just like a little kickstand behind you. And find your gaze point. Right foot is pushing the floor away so that the whole body grows a little taller. Then we're just going to start to hinge the hips, taking that left leg up. So there's a couple of options here for a Dekasana or airplane pose. You could use blocks under your hands and play here, working towards getting onto the tips of the fingers so you can get that lift in the chest. You can have your hands at your heart and think about reaching your heart forward and up, so you get a little bit of a lift there. Your heart starts to shine forward. There's a little upper back bend. You can take your arms down by your sides. You could interlace the hands. Both legs working to grow longer for one more breath. And then we'll step the feet together and shake it all out. Okay, other side. Right leg steps back. Left leg helps you to stand nice and tall. A steady gaze at one spot, like you love it. And then we'll hinge. That right leg is trying to reach you back into the wall behind you as your heart reaches forward and up in the other direction. Whatever arm variation you want to take. As you breathe here. And then step your feet together and shake it out. Oh. All right, inhale, both arms reach up. Exhale, fold down. Lengthen your heart forward as you inhale. Exhale, bend your knees, lower your hips. And then we'll just sit gracefully. And you can sit on a blanket, fold it up, or a block. All right. So let's get comfortable in our seat. You can reach back, grab onto one of your sit bones. Go ahead and grab it, it's yours. Grab right onto the inner edge if you can get it. And you're gonna slide it back and then out to the side, so just taking it at a diagonal. And as you move that sit bone out to the side, your pelvic floor is gonna slide a little bit in the other direction. And then you'll release. And then we'll do the other side, grab your sit bone. If you can find it. Find the inner edge, and you're just going to slide it diagonally back behind you, shifting your pelvic floor slightly in the other direction. And then release. And hopefully you feel a bit more grounded in your seat. If you need to elevate the hips, take some pressure off the front of the hips with the lower back, go ahead and do that. Close your eyes or gaze steady at one spot. I was telling my restorative class on Sunday, one of my teachers, Richard Freeman, when he talks about trying to find enlightenment or the state of yoga, it says that you can't get there until you've let everyone into your heart. And I have found that to be extremely challenging over the last couple of years, with varying degrees of risk tolerance for this virus and just generally heightened stress levels and erratic behavior and all of that. So I've been doing this meditation quite a bit lately. You can bring a hand to your heart. You can bring both hands. Let your attention drop into the center of your chest. Picturing maybe a little ball of green light. So rather than your physical muscular heart, just the heart center, your Anahata chakra. And imagine that you can make enough space in that green ball of light for everyone that you love. Let them into your heart. You can picture faces, names. Notice how it feels to imagine putting all of those people, animals, souls that you love right into your heart. And then make the space for the folks that you find to be challenging. Can you put them in your heart? How does it feel? And then find the space for the folks that you have some maybe stirred up animosity towards. Really challenging people that you haven't found a way to forgive yet. And for me, for this stage, when I'm finding it to be really challenging, rather than picturing the person's face, I just invite their heart into my heart. Just don't even have to picture them, really just your heart is welcome in my heart. In yoga, this is the practice of metta, it's loving kindness. You don't have to have any proximity to any of these people to do this practice. Just notice how it feels to put that third level, the super challenging folks, right on in there. And then with your own heart in your heart. And let that green ball of light permeate all of your cells as you shift into Shavasana. You can continue to sit upright in a seated meditation or find your corpse pose. See if you can stay in this heart space for these last few moments of practice. How do you feel? If you're ready to move, take a long breath in through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Press up to a seat. Bring your hands back to your heart. And if you'd like, you can join me in chanting one Om. Thank you so much.